Welcome again today. I'm Brandon Kelly. I'm your host here of Play Big, Win Big. And today we have an awesome opportunity to have the world renowned Chris Evans here with us. He's not only just a real estate broker and author, but a fantastic parent. And he and his wife have created a pretty awesome background and empire here that we get to have the chance to meet with today. So, Chris, take it away. Let's take a quick second and learn a little bit about you. Give us a little bit of your backstory and let's help the listeners understand where you're coming from.
Sure, Brandon. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here and talk to you a little bit about kind of what we've done. My name is Chris Evans, not Captain America. If you see me on GQ, it's been heavily edited. Now, I got started in real estate in 2010. Background in finance, and it wasn't exactly the time to be a financial advisor. So after a short stint interning with Merrill and then getting all my financial advisory licenses, ended up moving into the real estate space. My in-laws had recently started Select Realty back then. I was about a 3-year-old company, got my license, and within about 3 or 4 years, we started having the family, and I thought about going back to law school, but it just wasn't worth the debt. So I stuck with it. And best decision I've ever made. My wife and I are now co-owners of Select Realty. We also own TOA Commercial, and we own a transaction brokerage called Simply List in Atlanta. And everything that we've done has been kind of consumer centric, is trying to give consumers options in what meets their budget and their needs for style and service. So TOA Commercial kind of was the last addition to that to kind of fit the needs of our investors and portfolio and acquisition clients. Simply List gives people the ability to either sell by themselves, by owner, or with limited assistance on contracts in the Metro Atlanta area. And Select Realty is our full service arm, which we give white glove service to our clients and handle everything for them. So during this time, my wife came in as a licensee in 2018, got her broker's license in 21, and she's an associate broker with us now. She runs our Simply List division. We have a business partner, Reed Moore, who he runs our commercial arm, and I'm the broker of all three entities. We invest in real estate as well. So we put our money where our mouth is. We believe highly in this industry. So my wife and I, ever since being in college, we bought our first house, never sold a piece of real estate without replacing it with another one. And that led us to write our book in 2022 called From the Ground Up, which is how two millennial high school sweethearts built a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio, and you can too. So it's a
We'll
little
put a plug for that in a minute. That'll be part of what we want to talk about. So,
yeah.
well, and then in fact, let's talk about that. We both have authored several books, and so what was the precipice? Why would somebody want to buy that, and how's it going to help them?
So there's a lot of information out there in real estate investing. We wanted to create a pathway for your average person to become a real estate investor. And the way that we did it, we call it leapfrogging, which is we bought our first house, and then instead of selling it to buy the next one, we had just saved up our down payment, lived in the house for long enough for the rent to pay for the mortgage payment. And when that happened, we went and bought another one, placed the tenant in there. We used the rule of 75, which is what we call one of the mortgage regulations, which allows 75% of the rental income to be counted as additional income towards your personal qualification to offset the debt. And now we have several properties, both in Georgia and Alaska. We use it for kind of our getaway and summer home. And then we also own a commercial business. So again, being in real estate, we didn't want to rent anymore. So we ended up saving up, putting our money where our mouth is, and buying a commercial building. Best business decisions we've ever made in our lives. And hopefully we'll get all those mortgages paid off soon so we can start enjoying the rewards of it.
Well, and that's where you actually go in and refinance and make the property pay for itself and bring in new properties. So we can talk about that too. But So Chris, I'm curious, are you guys up in Alaska right now, or are you down in Georgia?
Just got back, actually. We were in Alaska for 3 weeks this year. We went up for most of the month of July. Got to see the Great Alaskan Car Launch, where instead of fireworks on the 4th, they drop 39 cars off of a cliff, and then got to do our annual fishing. So it was good stuff.
That's fabulous. Well, let's dive into some of the meat and potatoes of what we look for here on the podcast. And that is, what are some of the three biggest challenges that you guys have faced in growing and scaling or getting to where you're at?
It's the challenges change depending upon where we were at that point in our lives and what we were trying to accomplish. When I first came in as principal broker, it was because my father-in-law had some health issues, and we had a company that our per person productivity was like 300,000. So for those of you not real estate related, that means that the average agent was only selling like one $300,000 house per year. Uh, Not a very successful number, but what we ended up doing was growing that to about $1.2 million per person. So our average agent was selling about 1.2 per year. Trained over 220 agents. We implemented different styles of lead generation and office support. Um, and then it got really good. We did a lot of business. We grew, we acquired, and then when the shift happened in the market, the biggest challenges are just adapting to change, change technology, finding out what your clients need, and being able to deliver that. So in the shifting environment, we're in Metro Atlanta, so um, the average right now, our inventory supplies are like 5.2 months, and we haven't seen that since June of 2012. So we have shifted again over the last 2 years, cutting expenses, cutting staff, cutting agents, overhead, and just making sure that we're operating in a manner that is conducive to the environment that we're in. So it's a lot,
Okay.
but we're no longer training new agents right now. We're focusing on our production and our sales, and we're really enjoying it.
So as you're looking at it, you adapted to the change, growing sales, and then really you're growing your people. Is that what I'm hearing?
Oh yeah. We were doing training, top of the line training. I was attending the Inman conferences every year. I was a speaker at Inman. Back then, I had a podcast called Rethink Real Estate with two other agents and brokers around the U.S., Christian Harris and Nathan White. Christian's in Florida now, Nathan's in Ohio. And we interviewed some of the best people in the industry, from Glenn Kelman, CEO of Redfin, to James Dwiggins over at Next Home, Mark Davison at 1000 Watt. I mean, it was just, we were talking to the best people in the industry and bringing that to our agents and our local community as well.
Well, and so we talk about being the best and having the big wins, and so you play big and then you win big. So
Mhm.
what are three of the biggest wins that you've had, either in your career or personally?
Personally, I think the biggest wins have just been the ability to control my time and what I'm doing with my day. I think you know everybody focuses on adding more assets and adding more expenses and things of that nature. We're not. Um, what's important to us, and I think the biggest demonstrator of wealth is just the ability to control your free time and your schedule without interference there. So we've been very fortunate. That's actually one of the reasons why I never went back to law school, right? I didn't want to miss any moments with my kids. I think family is the most important thing that we can do in our lives. And paying it forward means being there to be able to take part in that. As far as
No,
the business goes, go ahead.
I was gonna say absolutely being part of the family and seeing them. I missed my first one kind of growing up, and that's when I had to focus and rechange and really figure out how do I make this work with family time and things like that. So absolutely, bravo for that. I didn't mean to interrupt you on that, Chris.
No, not at all. Business wise, I think the biggest wins that we've had were just real estate's hard to define those big wins, right? It's like, are you defining it by transaction volume? Are you defining it by, what is your definition of success? For us, I think the asset acquisition has probably been the biggest success for us. I always go back to the story of Family Video versus Blockbuster. So if you're listening and not familiar with that, Blockbuster went out of business. Family Video actually did not. For years after Blockbuster was out of business, Family Video was still around. And the main differentiator between those two was Blockbuster didn't own a single asset. All of their movies were licensed and and leased. All of their real estate was rented. So when the market shift happened, they didn't own anything and they ended up going out of business. Whereas Family Video, they ended up transitioning because they owned the real estate, they owned the video licenses, the way that they had structured their contracts. They were able to partner. They brought in, pizza restaurants into their buildings and did like pizza and video movies, like specials. They converted some of their real estate into gyms and other types of locations. But because they owned the asset, they're still around. So I'm a big proponent of owning what you do, not just your asset, but also your processes. If your business is subject to the whim of some big corporation out there that you're buying the leads from or you're buying the business from, you don't own that relationship. And it's easy to lose it. So we've focused on just being kind of grassroots, family owned, providing a great service, being some of the most knowledgeable around. So continuing education is always important for us. So that when we do have those client interactions, we're aiming for a 10 out of 10. And oftentimes we get it.
No, and that's a great structure to look at. So tell me more about this 10 out of 10, because that's something that we talk about as always elevating your efforts to elevate your excellence, performing at your best. But expound on the 10 out of 10. That's a good concept that I think the listeners will love. So let's talk about that.
So whenever I'm working with a client and whenever, we're training agents to work with clients, everybody's definition of a 10 is different. So you can't go into every transaction doing the exact same thing. The important thing about this business is taking the time to learn and understand the needs of the people that we're working with, getting them on the same page, expectation wise, figuring out your timelines, what they need, and then taking it one step further and then no longer being a reactive agent, but being a proactive agent. So in circumstances where, we had recently in this market, it's pretty tough, but we had a property that was under contract. And it was a pretty quick close, and the owners were kind of having their back up against the wall for timeline to move. They were thinking about even getting a rental. Well, we ended up scouring properties, like not just the automated search that's going to them, but we're going through property after property after property. The ones that they liked, we're following up with. One of them fell through under contract. We were able to get back in there right away because we were staying on top of the properties that we knew that they had interest in, and that ended up being the property that they bought. But they didn't catch that the property came back on the market. We did. And the day that it came back on the market, we were in there for a tour because we were being proactive. And before anybody else got the opportunity, we had our contract and our offer ready to go. And we were able to structure it as a back-to-back closing. So same day, two closings. They didn't have to get any temporary housing. It was just a win-win for everybody.
Well, and I think that's one of the keys for the listeners is being super proactive and really paying attention to the not just the needs, but the deep level needs that your clients have and finding that solution for them and then ultimately bringing that together with the best interest in mind. And we call that a win-win. And in fact, it's a win-win-win. So it's not just win for one person or a loss for another, but it has to be win for you, a win for them, and then ultimately win for everybody. And it sounds like you were right on par with that. So bravo on that standpoint. As we look at other big wins that you've had, What are some of the things that made a big difference in how you play the game of business or the game of life?
When it comes to business, I think real estate specifically, it's do you know your product? Do you know your contracts? Because we'll in this market where Georgia has 5.2 month supply right now, it's not because we have too many homes for sale. It's because the buyer pool has just shrunk dramatically. So historically, we have kind of along the same number of homes that we've had for sale, just fewer buyers. So if you don't know what you're selling, it's very easy to not sell it. An example, we had one of our clients had a property on the market in a very high demand neighborhood. And the agent that ended up putting it under contract was not from around here. So their numbers were vastly skewed from what they should have been. We're talking over $500,000 property but under a mill. And their offer was probably $60,000 net to seller less than asking. And the property was every penny worth what it was listed for. Um, we ended up standing firm because we knew what it was worth and we got full price on the offer. I mean, they got some concessions, but it was definitely full price. And throughout all the negotiation, they came back after the inspection and asked for the world in a 30-year-old house. And the price was accurate for the condition for the neighborhood. Again, the agent not local, so we don't expect them to be familiar with that particular neighborhood, but we are. And we were able to stand very firm. The buyer knew what they were buying, the agent, maybe not so much. And we were able to get some repairs done, but not anything that was going to be super inconvenient for the seller. And that is, it closed successfully, no issues. But the funny thing there was the agent made an argument during the inspection saying the property is not worth what we're paying in this condition. Turns out it appraised for contract value, no issues.
You got to love it when those come together, and especially when you've done your due diligence and your research.
Yeah.
I've only done about 130, 140 rental properties and fix and flips and things like that. So, obviously I need to build up my game to compete with you, especially being Captain America. I love that reference that you gave yourself on that. And I've only done 7 hotels and some strip malls. But as you're looking at, how do you help the investor as you're looking from your book standpoint? How do you help the new person get started in investing in real estate?
When I talk about investments, I come at it from a little bit different of an angle from, what most real estate investors are going to approach it. Mostly because I am a former licensed stockbroker. So when I look at portfolios and investing, I look at things a little bit differently. For example, fix and flips, I don't consider that real estate investing at all. I think that you're running inventory, crew, you've got product, you're outputting a product from something that you're buying and you're transforming that. You're not investing in that. You're actually running a property rehabilitation business. So there's a difference there. Real estate investing in my definition is long-term buy and hold, or triple net buy and hold, because again, one of the biggest issues that I've seen, I started in the recession in 2010, was over leveraging. So when the economy shifts, you get stuck in a position where either you have too many projects going on, interest rates go up, and now here we are with a product that can't sell, and you're selling for less than what's owed, so you're taking a loss on it, or you're over leveraged in your rentals, and you end up getting into a market where rents may decline for a few years, and now you can't make that rent, or you can't place a tenant because somebody damages it and you've got $30,000 worth of repairs that you have to go in and rehab, but you can't afford that. So I think the biggest thing in real estate investing for long-term success is to hold long-term rental properties in areas where you can have a stable tenant that is going to allow the tenant to pay that property off for you. And if you're doing capital improvements, I look at that as just, it's like putting it into my IRA for the year. So if I have to go in and put in an HVAC unit, well, there's $5,000 that would have been in a rental property or in an IRA, but now it's going towards that asset. But because I'm leveraged in that asset, I'm getting my 5% on $300,000-400,000 every year, not 5% on the $5,000 I'm sticking in an IRA.
Well, that makes perfect sense. And so, really, what you used as your solution was kind of a playbook from one of the greatest investors that we all know of, Warren Buffett. Buy low, hold forever, and make sure that it's a income producing asset and pays for itself. So, I think that's a great strategy to add, especially for somebody that's new into the system. And so, I'm glad that you brought that to their attention on that, Chris. So, as we get ready to wrap up, tell us what would be the one thought that you'd want to leave with all of our listeners, and then tell us how we can get in contact with you and get your book.
Sure. So if we're talking investing, one of the things that I do is called the Evans Report, and it's in the book From the Ground Up, which is available on Amazon and Audible, is financial planning for real estate investments. So for the kind of first-time investor or somebody who's not coming into this with private money, who's looking to do fix and flips, the Evans Report that I do is basically financial planning for real estate investments. So probably about 4 years ago, my wife asked me, she goes, "Hey, when are we going to be able to retire on this?" So I spent about 3 months building out all the Excel modeling and forecasting and debt, the Dave Ramsey method of debt snowball, putting that into play for the mortgages. And I can analyze out like a portfolio of about 10 different properties for up to 40 years. And what we do is we sit down with investors, we analyze what they need, what their cash flow goals are, and we build out what they need to achieve in real estate in order to achieve that goal. And then we forecast what their cash flow is going to be in 10, 20, 30 years when they're ready to retire and they just want to depreciate that asset and do it either a 1031 until they die strategy, or just leave it and let their estate take care of it at the step up cost basis. So we work with CPAs on the tax side of things. We work with attorneys on the legal structuring things, but the cash flow and the asset modeling is something I do myself. So planning is the biggest thing that you can ever do. Just know what you're getting into, know what you're trying to build before you actually go and do it. And the book details everything out from our acquisitions and our story of starting out with no heat in our townhouse, all the way up to doing our 1031 exchanges and reallocating our portfolio, selling a few in Georgia and acquiring a few other doors in Alaska.
And how many properties do you have in your portfolio now?
13.
13?
Mm-hmm.
Good round number, so or good odd number, however you want to see it.
Yeah.
From a prime standpoint. Well, guys, ladies and gentlemen, it's been fun to have the Chris Evans here with us. He is world famous, even though his IMDb page shows a different picture. We've learned a lot of great information about how to play big and win big, and we look forward to not only Chris's success, but we'd love to hear your testimonials on how Chris was able to help you. Don't forget to go to his website and get the book. And if you're in the Georgia and or Alaska area, go ahead and hit Chris Evans up to help you with all your real estate and investing needs. So I'm the Brandon Kelly, reminding you to elevate your efforts and elevate your excellence. And we will see you on the next round.